All right, and we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Today's episode is called Life is All About Relationships, and we are welcoming Doug Garabedian today. So Doug's going to introduce himself, tell us a little bit about, what do you do, first of all, and then from there, we'll get into the networking part of stuff.
Absolutely. Thanks, Amelia. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm Doug Garabedian. I'm the lead account executive at Duffy Insurance. We're a local, growing, family-run insurance agency based out of the North Shore. We have 8 locations now and over 50 employees. And just a little over 4 years ago when I joined, we were only 2 locations, maybe 20 employees. So we've been really able to take that next step to the next level over the last few years, which has been great. Very exciting.
Awesome. So we have a tradition that we always, when our guests come on, we always ask them, what's one cool networking event that you've been to recently?
Sure. Good question. So I actually run our own an online networking group that Steven's actually a part of. We meet twice a month online, but we once a quarter, I like to get together in person. So in December, we went to Sylvan Street Grill in Danvers. If you haven't been, it's a fantastic spot. And it was a small group, only 6 of us. But I was able to take a step back and look at everyone. We're all great friends now. Like I've met some of these people's kids, been to a cookout at another, and over 2 years ago, none of us knew each other. So to be able to have another social circle that I consider friends that we're also passing business back and forth is really fantastic.
I think that's a really interesting part of networking that I, never really thought of before I started networking, was how many people you meet that you become friends with, like that you actually feel like, oh, this is somebody I want to stay in touch with. I don't know if Steve and Amelia have that same experience, but
totally. Absolutely. I mean, I think I've said this joke on our first podcast ever was I said when I first started networking, I was like, I don't need new friends. Like, this is so weird. Like, I don't want to, no. And then I got out there, I started doing it. And then I realized how many amazing people there are at networking. And like Doug said, it's amazing that you're able to go into an event, make a relationship to a point where you actually have a friendship that you want to continue. And then the bonus piece on top is that you're passing business back and forth. So you're also helping each other in your careers. It's more than just a traditional friendship where, maybe you grew up together, you met in college, and like my friends from college and high school, we don't talk about business. And so it's just such a different juxtaposition and I love it. But on that topic too, Doug, I think I wanted to hear a little bit more about how you got into networking, because I know there's a really nice story about kind of the growth of Duffy and how you've kind of implemented networking there as well.
Sure, absolutely. So, like I said, when I came on to Duffy, we only had 2 locations, about 20 employees. We didn't really have a big social media presence. I had worked at William Gallagher prior to that, and also Cross Insurance, 2 fantastic organizations. I still talk to old colleagues to this day. And I was able to implement kind of what I learned there and bring it to a smaller family-run company. And a big part of that is branding and networking. So it's taken a while, as I'm sure you all know. Networking is a long-term play, but it's the most sticky, the most tangible for sure. And it was just getting social media presence. If people hear the name Doug and they think Duffy Insurance, and whether that's just some Instagram posts at least once a week on LinkedIn, that's what we really tried to accomplish over the last few years. And I think in terms of the smaller agencies, there wasn't that much of that. So we were able to stand out. And now I'd say the majority of our business is all referrals coming in or introductions through sources we know.
Yeah. So that's always an interesting one too. Like I always am interested to hear how much of your business do you think is sort of those warm referrals coming through that networking versus from, external sources? Is it most of it, or is it,
I would say, there's no perfect formula. Every personality is different depending on what business you're in as well. I think it has to be a good combination of networking, maybe strategic networking, cold calling, maybe warm cold calling. But everyone knows here, if Steven introduces me to someone, that is so much more valuable to that person than if I was able to get that same owner on the phone on a cold call. The end result might be the same, but the trust going into it, people like to work with people they know and trust. It's already kind of established at the beginning. So
it's that ability to get somebody else to vouch for you, basically.
Yeah.
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 Do you have so Amelia was asking you about how you got started. Do you have any like crazy origin story of Doug as networker? And I'm fascinated to hear about this life is all about relationships motto that you have. So.
Well, insurance in general, no one really you just fall into it. There's a few schools you can get a risk management degree at, but no one goes, a lot of people don't go to college like, I'm going to be an insurance broker. You kind of just fall into it. I had some connections and got an informational interview, and then the rest is history. I would say the networking part, I kind of saw from my father. He's a partner at a CPA firm, Tonneson and Company out of Wakefield. And I saw how many friends he has in relationships. And obviously I'm his son, so it's probably part of my personality as well. I've always just been able to be friendly with people, treat others by the golden rule, just how they want to be treated, and make friends. And that's kind of my personality of a producer. There's other people that might want to dial for dollars, and that's their big strength. Mine's definitely networking. So it's finding the balance of all that.
Got it. Do you find that with oh, go ahead, Stephen. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, well, it is interesting, right? Because there is, of course, the Duffy billboard that's out there. I was just very disappointed that didn't have Doug's face on it, but for the next one, it will.
I tried to get on there, but
you should have. Is there a petition we can sign?
Right.
So do you find that you have to, how do you, when you sort of run into, I don't know if it's new associates in your business or just younger people, do you have advice that you give folks about how to get going in the networking world?
I would say, so my biggest probably mistake with networking early on was just overthinking networking events. And I'd have it locked on my calendar for like 2 months in advance. I'd have to have a coworker go with me or someone I know, so I'd have someone to talk to. And looking back on it now, 8, 9, 10 years later, my advice would be is just go. It's so much. Everyone's there for the same reason, to build friendships and relationships. If you can just have the courage to go up and say hi and then listen to what they have to say, listen more than talk, then who knows where that conversation is going to lead. Maybe you can introduce them to someone. They do business together. It comes full circle back to you at some point in the future. That's also led to, I think, good habits I have now at networking as well. For example, I like to golf. So sometimes I'll go play 9 and go by myself and get paired up with 2 or 3 random people. And whether it's 9 or 18 holes, by the end of those 2, 3, 4 hours, you're going to know who they are, their family, where they went to school, what they do. Maybe you have a new golf friend, or maybe there's a potential business relationship out of it. Having lunch by yourself. I encourage everyone to do that once a month if they can. Sit at the bar on a Thursday or Friday when people tend to go out for lunch. And I've met business owners sitting at the bars, eating a salad, or probably not a salad, probably a burger. It's all about getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So just meet as many people as you can. And those are some ways that I've seen, you just be out in the public as much as you can. You never know who you're going to meet.
I really like that. That's something I don't think we've heard from anyone else who's come on our podcast about. Like, yes, there's the going to alone, but the emphasis on it, I think, is so important as well. Because, when you go with a friend or a colleague or whatever, you have a safety net. Like, you can just spend, and it's so easy to just spend your whole time, the whole event, just talking to that one person. And maybe you meet one person here or there just naturally because of the event. But going alone, that was advice I got given when I was first starting networking, and it was really scary at first, but like you said, if you just get out and do it, it forces you to meet so many new people, because otherwise you're just standing in a room by yourself. Like you have to go talk to
somebody.
Yeah.
So it's funny you say that, because I went to an event through my business school alma mater the other day, and it's gotten to the point where I know enough people there that it's easy for me to not, to just not branch out and talk to other folks. So I probably didn't meet as many people as I meant to meet, but it was funny because I ended up meeting this one woman, and then I somehow was like standing at this table talking to this woman, and then all these other women come along, and I realized that I am now like the one guy in like interloping in a sorority friend group. I was like, it has been so nice to meet you all, and and then later on I was in an elevator with them, and I was like, oh, it's like my friends from class of whatever. So, but I do think I appreciate, Doug, your point, because I do think because I knew a lot of people there, right, I actually wasn't as good at going out and meeting other folks because I just was just chatting with the people I know. So I do think that there's something to be said for not just going alone, but also going to events that you've never been to before.
And I think you brought up a good point, Jeff. When you're in these networking groups and you're going often, you start to get to know everybody, and it becomes easy to stop getting to know the new people. And so it becomes a second level skill that you need to have of taking a step back and saying, oh, I know all these people. Look, there's someone over there who I haven't met, and it looks like they're also alone. So let me bring them in, introduce them, and all of a sudden you've become a linchpin in this organization where that one person didn't know anyone. You just introduced them to 5, and they're going to remember that as well. Yeah. So it becomes, I feel like networking, it's like you level up and there's like a game that you have to play almost, where it's like, entry level is like going with a friend, and then you have to get to know, then you have to go alone.
Yeah. I feel like there's a business idea there, like the networking game, especially with AI. Like you could totally create such a game.
Yeah,
I feel like it, like Sims, but networking. I don't know. But Doug,
well, I think the. No, sorry.
Oh no, go right ahead, Steve. You can ask a question.
No, I was just going to say, because it kind of, you said it's going with a friend. I almost think it's like, if I think back to my first ones, it was almost more so the, going with the goal of getting business, right, or immediate outcomes, or those sort of things, right? I think that's really like the 101. And it's funny because I'm so far away from that now, that going with a like very specific objective is actually weird. And I know this because I actually went to the boat show the other day. Right. And so the boat show is in Boston. I'm not really in the market for a boat. They fascinate me, but the best boats out there are the ones that your friends have, of course. Yes, right. So, but I was actually meeting up. I was meeting up with some of the folks from a not-for-profit that I've worked with, and that they're great folks at Courageous Sailing. So I went to say hi there. But then I'm walking the floor. I'm like, you know what? Thinking about the custom label wines and that sort of thing that I do, I've been on a ton of boats. I've never seen custom label wines on the boats, right? There's like custom towels and sandals and like everything possible, but I've never seen a custom label wine. And so for once, I actually made the networking, call it networking now, all about me. And I talked to the Commodores, I talked to the boat salespeople, I talked to the boat everybody people, and probably at 30, 40, 50 conversations. And I asked them all the same thing, right? Have you ever seen a custom label wine on the boat? And none of them have seen that before. These are people who have been on hundreds, thousands, whatever boats. So I'm like, But now I'm actually selling them on the idea, right? And so it very quickly turned from just the, hey, I'm meeting people randomly, blah, 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 to, no, I'm actually now trying to sell these people on this idea. So really like going for it versus really going into help people, that sort of thing. And it felt really, really awkward for the first few times. Like it was like to actually go expecting something or trying to sell something was just really weird. It kind of brought me back literally like a decade ago. So yeah, Doug, definitely appreciate your kind of like whole thing about this, but I'm like, I've got to tell that story because this literally reminds me of how when I started networking, what it was compared to where I am now. I think you explained that more articulately than I did, but
and that's how you and I met, was at the Boston Young Professional Association networking events. And
exactly.
Yeah, if you go with the mindset of, I'm going to go in, I'm going to meet a CFO, I'm going to get it's not going to work out. You just need to go in with an open mind, just to make friends, see where the conversation goes, and go from there. Yeah.
I think that's right. What are the other big networking mistakes you see people make? that you're like, I mean, I realize we all kind of have to go through them and learn the hard way, but
yeah.
Are there any big mistakes, Doug, that you see that you're like, huh, that could have been avoided?
I mean, and this is just my personal opinion, it's sometimes if people just come on a little bit too strong and within 2 seconds I have their business card, what they do, full scope. I like to just meet people, see where the conversation goes. If you go a little bit maybe over the top and be a little bit too aggressive, it could shy away people and put more of a guard up than letting someone's guard down, where you could have a actual conversation with them. So I would just say, just don't come on too strong. Just talk to them as if you're meeting them as a friend, a potential friend for the first time.
That's an interesting point you just brought up. What, in your view, what is the right moment to sort of offer either the business card or the LinkedIn connection or whatever? Like, what do you try and connect with everyone, or are you more like, I just sort of see how the conversation goes?
No, everyone I meet with, I always like to give my contact information out and just see if I can help them. It could be at one of the BYPA events. I ended up meeting a guy who owned a lot of real estate. That happens to be one of my top niches at Duffy Insurance for our book of business. So towards the end, I was like, hey, just so you know, I work with a lot of investors similar to you. If you ever want to have a conversation about that, let me know. But on the flip side, if it's someone that I know personally, I might not be able to do business with, but if I can end up connecting them, or if they ever want to grab coffee, just if you can be a connector, that's what I try to be. So pretty much everyone I'm with, I'll probably end up hopefully getting their information. And sometimes I like to wait until they ask for it and then I give it to them to not come too aggressive. But I try to get everyone's info that I can. Just not right away like, hey, I'm Doug from Duffy. Here's my card.
Right.
We've all been at an event where someone like walks up to a circle of people and they're just it's like a deck of cards. They're just passing out. And you're like, I don't even know your name, but I have your business card. Cool.
I don't even carry a lot of cards anymore. I probably should. I end up just giving LinkedIn, cell phone. That's the best way to get a hold of me. So
my favorite thing these days is it's still like not as well known, I think, as it should be, that you can, scan to connect on LinkedIn. And so just showing somebody you can scan, like, it's kind of, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I could do that.
It's so fun giving people that little tutorial.
They're like, oh wow, this person I just added value.
But Doug, when you're meeting people for the first time at a network, do you have any questions that you like to ask? Because like you said, you don't like you want to get a little bit personal before you dive into the business. So like, I know the standard question is, what do you do for a living? But do you have any other questions that you like to ask people that maybe stand out a little bit?
Instead of saying, what do you like to do? Or what do you do? I like to say, what do you like to do? And that might go into some of their hobbies, which then could lean back into work. Or 9 times out of 10, if you're at an official event, they probably have what they do on the name tag.
True.
But I like to stand out that way, and then who knows where the conversation leads. And then sometimes you do have to ask, like, so what do you do for work? What's your role there? And you do that as well. But I think if you can show that you care and just what do they like to do, then see where it goes.
Right.
I like that question.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead,
Jeff,
Steve.
I was just thinking, Jeff. I think you and I were weren't we at the what's that college nearby? And there was a session around networking. I think one of the comments that
I don't think I was there. Was that? Sorry, go ahead.
I thought you were, but I could be wrong. Well,
I don't think I was there. But it's cool that I'm now networking at places that I wasn't even there. So that's cool.
That's a skill. That's a skill.
Yeah, you do have a twin.
I do have a twin, and we do AI twins too. So it's like,
you never know.
I don't even have to be
in
there.
A place you didn't remember.
Anyway, go ahead and tell your story.
There's like 18 Jeffs out there. But no, so the comment that she made was something along the lines that if you have to ask, do you want my card, or should I give you a card, or that sort of thing, maybe it's too soon, type of thing. So there was a comment around that, which there is something interesting there, right? Because but I also balance that against, if you're getting up at 15 minutes, right, and you're at an hour event and you're trying to meet other people, that sort of thing, there also has to be kind of that like inherent cutoff of the conversation, right? So it's an interesting concept. I'm not sure that I 100% agree with it, but I think it's somewhere in the middle with what Doug said, where it's like, we're just walking in, here's my card, hi, bye. But then also where there has to be some natural connection into how do we stay in contact type of thing. But that was an interesting I didn't really think about it like that before, but yeah, if you're asking, hey, do you want my card? And obviously you can ask it different ways, but that was an interesting observation to me.
I feel like
sure you weren't at that, Jeff?
You have to ask, or you no? I don't know.
And normally we ask this at the beginning of the podcast, and it's my fault that we didn't. But what was an event that you went to recently that you really enjoyed, and why was that event something that stuck out?
Honestly, I would probably just bring it back to the one that I kind of ran in December when we went to Sylvan Street, because like I said, over 2 years ago, not one person at that table knew each other. And it wasn't like an uptight get together. It was, everyone was loose, having a good time, sharing some apps, having a couple beers or drinks. And then on the backside, it's, like if anyone asks for a mortgage, like I'm going to send them to Eric from Guaranteed Rate, so it was just great to see that all the hard, and it doesn't happen overnight. Like it took a whole 2 years of me running this group to now we're in a place where, all right, let's add more people. The sky's the limit, but we're all trusted resources. And if you can be a connector and have a person for, no matter if it's your friend, family, client, if they ask for a mechanic, a CPA, if you can have one or two trusted sources for everything that someone asks for, then that's like the ultimate dream, being a network.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And it's interesting though, because I feel like now that I've been sort of doing more networking for a little over a year now, that I actually find that now I do start to have connect, like I'll talk to somebody and they'll say something like, oh, you should talk to so and so, or and it's interesting, sometimes I'll connect somebody that, like, I don't know that they really have any, they don't necessarily have any obvious business connections, but it's like, I think you should meet this person. But other times it's like, oh, I know somebody who does this, and so I'll connect it. But it took a while. It takes a little while to build up that ability, I think.
I have a goal every time I meet with someone one-on-one where I want to be able to make at least one introduction to them afterwards. Mm-hmm. So some questions would be like, who are your best referral sources? But also, to your point, Jeff, this happened the other week where I was out to breakfast with a CFO, and as I was talking to her, I was like, there's this other person. I'm like, I can't believe you guys haven't met yet. Like, and she was like, oh yeah, no, I have no idea who this other woman is. So like, I have to introduce you, because like, I can't believe that you don't know each other. And I feel like you guys would be really close friends, honestly. And so I introduced them, and the woman texted me afterwards, was like, we have a ton of mutual friends. I can't believe that, like, sent me a screenshot about how like they got along, and like, they're like, literally the text was like, I can't wait to be friends, like business and like personal, because I can't believe how many mutual friends we have and we haven't met before. So I got that text on like a random Saturday, and I was like, wow, like that made my whole weekend, like be able to make that connection. And I know, like, and then kind of bringing it full circle is just finding ways to, networking, I think, is about building a little bit of a web, and the more times you connect people, the bigger and bigger your web gets.
Yeah. Well, our almost half an hour has flown by, and so Doug, we like to at the end of each episode have everybody talk a little bit about some event you've got coming up. And so wondering if you could start us off, any cool events that you have coming up in the near future.
So through the Peabody Chamber of Commerce, I'm actually a board member there. There's an after hours on February 5th that it's a wine tasting, and it's a networking event. They always get a great turnout, and Steven's actually providing the wine for it. So it should be fantastic. So if anyone wants to go, contact me. I know everyone there. I'm happy to make introductions and talk to you more about that chamber. Should be a good.
I'm so glad that Steven is involved, because I was going to be like, are you okay with this?
Like, we just promoted an event for wine that Steven's not doing.
Yeah, don't. Steven's heavily involved.
And I would say I strongly encourage going to the Peabody Chamber events, because last time I won tickets to the Celtics.
Oh, so nice!
I recommend going to them.
I'll jump in next, and just say I have an event coming up. I think later this week, or I can't remember if it's this week or next week, but it's called Sleight of Brand. And this guy that I met at an American Marketing Association Boston chapter networking event is doing he's a brand guy and also a magician. And so he's doing a presentation about the relationship between magic and marketing. And so I think this is going to be a very cool networking event, and probably a little fun entertainment as well.
Yeah.
So I will pass it over to, I don't know, whoever wants to go next.
I can go.
Amelia.
Yeah. So I have 2 events. One event I'm going to this week, it's called Bucket List. I think these events are fun. And what it is there's a couple people who are very well versed in the startup world, and they create almost like a Shark Tank environment. So we pick names out of a hat, and there's all founders, and whoever gets picked has to go up and give their 2-minute pitch off the cuff. And then the people there who are running the event will actually give them advice about how to clean up their pitch, tighten up their story a little bit, and really bring the audience in. So for me, I find that event really fun because as everybody knows, I love startups. I think it's just like so fun to listen to all these people's new and cool ideas and listen to truly their passion projects. And so many of them have so many good ideas that I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Wow, like you're going to save the world. But then also hear the feedback of how do you make this even better? So so you see parts of their journey, and I love watching that because you can then see where they're going to go in the future, and it's really exciting to watch those events. So
awesome, Stephen, and you're on. Stephen always has like 10 events that he does.
Yes.
Pick one.
I was just going through the list. It's like, holy crap, but yes. Well, I'm going to do 2 really quick hits because these are they're very quick. And now I have 2 public-facing wine tastings coming up. So one is on January 21st, which is tomorrow. That's in Lancaster, Mass. So not far from Worcester, a little bit further from here. And then on the 24th, I have one in Buxton, Maine, which is near Portland.
Wow,
so if there's anybody kind of around those areas, I have some people who are actually normally here, and they're like, well, actually, I'm going to be in Portland. Perfect. So if you can actually go. And so definitely a couple of those. I'm probably going to do a dry January celebration on January 30th, which of course will be dry wines as well as dry farmed wines, celebrating the end of a very lackluster sales month for me. And then on the actual side, of course, there's the NGU type events. So I know that's coming up this week. And then I have a couple of 7 a.m. B&I ones that I'm basically in as a sub for. So,
wow.
It's been.
Yeah.
That's always fun. Those B&I folks they're up early.
I know they're always up super early. I'm like,
7.
Awesome. So Doug,
7
before
to
we
8:30 in Newton.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say 7 to 8:30 in Newton, and then Friday 7 to 8:30 at the Prue in Boston. So that's going to be an interesting
nice. Well, that'll be interesting. At least it's early, so you won't hit a lot of traffic.
Yeah, take the train in.
So, Doug, before we say goodbye, what is the best place or best way for people to connect with you? And I will put your info.
Yeah. If you want to reach out to my email, that's right on there. Just doug@duffyins.com, or honestly, my cell phone, 781-710-1222. It's the best way to reach me. Call or text me anytime.
Awesome.
What a great cell phone number too.
Right.
Easy. I like the last
I asked you for one that's easier to remember. Yeah.
Awesome. Doug, this has been great. Thank you for joining us. And it was great to hear about your networking experience.
And we'll see everyone next week.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me on.
Good. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, thank you.